Namaste Yin Yogis, welcome to this good night Yin Yoga practice. My name is Kimberley Roberts and I'm the founder of SolefulYin, a delicious blend of reflexology and Yin Yoga therapies to heal the soul. Our practice today, we're going to do 3 different Yin postures, and I like to do this practice just before I'm heading to bed. And it allows me to really settle myself, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. It quiets my mind, it relaxes my body of tension, and it allows me to get really grounded and present so that I get a really great night's sleep. And sleep is a really important thing that we need to get on a regular basis, and good quality sleep. So I invite you to do this practice as often as you can before you head to bed. We're going to be holding each one of these postures for about 2 minutes. When you're practicing at home, once you get quite familiar with these postures, I invite you to hold them a little bit longer. When I work with them, I typically do about a 5 to 8 minute hold. And I use a lot of props so that I can hold these postures in a longer period of time and allow my body to incorporate and release as I hold. So the postures serve me best when I use the props, and then as my body starts to open up, those props start to either come away or they come into lower variations, which allow my body again to release a little bit more. So what you'll need for your practice today is, ideally, if you have a couple of blocks, that'd be great. If you don't have blocks, no big deal. You can totally use either towels or blankets or cushions. Okay, so if you're using towels or blankets, you can roll them up to kind of make like these little mini bolsters. And if you've got a couple of those, then that's what you can work with. The other thing I highly recommend when you're doing a practice at night, or well, anytime, but really at night, is when you're really trying to get grounded and settled for your practice and for a good night's sleep, is that you have some kind of timer so that you can put the timer on for whatever amount of time that you're holding on. And what that allows you to do is, when you're practicing, you have the timer set so you know that you're holding this pose for 2 or 3 minutes, and you don't have to worry about trying to check, well, how long have I been here, how much time have I got left, because it'll ring once it's done. So you can use an egg timer, you can use like what I have is an Enzo clock, like that's great too. Some people ask me if they can use like an alarm on their phone. I kind of say that's a last option unless you put your phone on do not disturb. But even then, just the idea that the phone is there, the thing is that even if it's on do not disturb and you're practicing, all of a sudden, you know, like there might be a message that comes through, and yes, you're not reading it at the time, but it's there, and then you see your phone, and all of a sudden it's like something comes up, and then you're like, oh, I'm not in this practice anymore, and then you forget about it. So grab yourself either an egg timer or some kind of clock, but try to see if you can ditch the phone, okay? So what we're going to work on today is we're going to do half butterfly pose. So that's posture that we're doing left and right side. From there, we're going to come into square pose, okay, so to release the hips and the low back. And then the last one is probably one of my absolute favorite postures. It's a little bit more restorative in nature, and that's legs up the wall. So if you have some wall space near you, then great. If you don't, that's all right. I will show an option without the wall, okay? That pose can actually even be done in bed. If you've got a really nice headboard that you can kind of just slide yourself and put your legs up against it, then that's a delicious way to end your practice. Okay, all right, so we're gonna start in half butterfly pose. Turning to the side of your mat, if you can, you're going to take both your legs and extend them out. Now, I like to sit up on the edge of something. And even though I'm quite flexible, the reason why I like to sit up on something is it just gives my pelvis a bit of a natural tilt already. So right there, I don't have to use any effort to try to keep my spine engaged in any way. So I highly recommend sitting up on something. That could be a block, it could be a rolled up towel or a blanket or a cushion or even a pillow. And then we're going to take the right leg, we're going to bend it, and we're going to take that foot to the inside of the left thigh, and keeping the left leg extended. If that left hamstring is super tight, you can do a couple of different things. You can prop something underneath the knee, so that could be a blanket, a towel again, or even a block. You could also, if you don't have a whole lot of props with you, you can keep that knee bent as much as you need to. Remember that in your yin practice, it's not about what you look like in the pose. Okay? So you're not going to look the same as how I look, and I'm not going to look the same as someone else who's doing this sequence. Okay? Because everybody's body is built differently. So what I invite you to do through your practice is try to let go of the ego or the idea that you need to come into a certain position, you need to look a certain way. It's about accessing the tissues, allowing your body to soften, and then whatever comes up, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, that's the important part of the practice. It's not about some ideal look, okay? So once you have yourself kind of set up, if this front knee on the right side is like quite high, then you're going to want to prop something underneath of it. If you're working with an injury in that right hip, then I would highly recommend using something that is quite supportive, that is going to be able to give you what you need in terms of being able to relax the hip, release it, but also give it the support if you're working with an injury. So that's why a block or something sturdier like a thicker book is a great option. Okay? If you're just working with like a tight hip and there's no injury there, then you could, what I often do is I'll slide a rolled up blanket underneath there. And what that allows me to do is as my body is in the pose and I start to soften into it and release, then eventually my knee starts to maybe open up a little bit more, and so does my hip. And the softness of this rolled up towel or blanket is what allows me to be able to release a little bit more. When you're working with an injury, the block is a better option because it's dense and it's hard and it doesn't give you quite the same range of motion, but you don't always necessarily want or need that when you're working with injury. Okay. The other thing is, when you fold forward into this pose, if the neck and the shoulders are really tight, it's great to have something to be able to rest your forehead on. Remember that, again, it's not about how you look. So some of you might be, this might be your half butterfly. You might be straight up like here. You might be feeling a lot of sensation in through that front hamstring, even through the inner right thigh, and even through your low back right here. This might be where you stay. You might slightly tilt forward. Where I want you to go is where you feel your first place of sensation in your body. Okay, so take a moment to lengthen up your spine first. Drop your shoulders, relax them, close your eyes. Take a breath in through your nose and take a breath out through your mouth. And then if you're staying here and there's plenty to rest your sensation and your breath on, then you stay here. For those of you that want to go a little bit further, maybe you start to fold forward. And it's okay to round your spine in this posture, okay? If you're coming forward enough where you can stack your blocks and you want some support, these blocks can come at whatever height you need to be able to rest your forehead and to relax your neck. Okay, and then you're going to close your eyes and let your shoulders drop down and find yourself resting on your breath. Okay? Not so much the inhale, but more the exhale. Okay? So long breaths in and even longer breaths out. Remember that when you're in a yin posture, you want to attend to the principles of the practice. So coming to your first edge is the first place where you start. And you only move when your body is either able to come a little bit deeper, or when the posture is over, or in the case where there might be a sharp electrical type of pain that you definitely aren't looking for, so you want to back out of. And then you stay still You rest on your breath, and then you allow the time and the posture to release not just the tissues and the fascia and the muscles, but to let the emotional and the physical stuff come up and to allow it time to release. Okay, so in our last 10 seconds, you're going to take your breaths in and you're really going to extend the breath out. And then wherever you are in your breath cycle, empty out the breath. And if you folded forward, you're going to slowly on your inhale start to rise up. And we'll meet back in a nice straight spine, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed. Take a moment to experience whatever sensations are starting to release. Long breaths out. And then if you've got some props in front of you, you're just going to want to take those to the side. Take your front hand, draw your knee up, and release the leg out. You want to maybe take a moment. Some of you may want to shake the legs out before we come to the other side. Some of you may want to be still. When you're ready, you're going to keep your right leg extended and draw your left leg in. Okay, so same principles apply on this side. Prop if you need to, whether it's under that front knee or underneath the left knee. And then begin with a nice long spine, shoulders drawn back. Some of you, again, might be staying here. This might be plenty on this side. Or you're starting to explore a range of motion where you're folding forward a little bit, again, until you come to that first edge, that first place. It's like you're peeling back the layers of the onion, and this is the first layer, okay? So you just don't split the onion open and pull out the core. You take your time to slowly come into it and allow the tissues the time it needs to release. If you're using some props to support your head, have those ready as you fold forward. Keep your attention on your breath. And especially if you're practicing this right before you're heading to bed or late in your evening, the exhalation is really what you want to focus on, especially from a sleep perspective. Because the thing is that when we sleep, we're in that parasympathetic nervous system state. And that's where we heal. And the exhalation is what really brings us into that state of being relaxed and allowing the body's nervous system to start to release and start to calm down. And that not just physically releases the body, but it also emotionally releases the mind as well. And also from an energetic perspective, it releases it and brings us into a more state where we're really calm, relaxed, and present. Okay, so long, fuller, deeper breaths out. And just keep coming back to that breath as often as you need to. Wherever you are in your breath cycle, empty out the breath. And then take a deep breath in and an even deeper breath out. And then slowly, if you were folded forward, start to lengthen up your spine as you come back up to center. Pause once you're up at the top, and then take another breath in and another breath out. And then take that left knee up with the help of the hand and release the leg out. Again, you can either stay still, or if you need to, just shake out the legs a little bit. And from here, you're going to turn so that you're in the center of your mat, and we're going to be taking square pose next. Now, this is often a really challenging posture for a lot of people, especially if your hips are really tight. I highly recommend sitting up on something. So rolled up towel or towels, whatever height you need to support yourself. And this really, not only does this help your pelvis release, but it also helps your knees release so that they're lower than your hips. Okay, and I'm going to show you a couple of different variations that you can work with in square pose, okay, depending on what's going on with your hips and your knees. So you're going to start by extending the legs out, and we're going to take that left foot, and this is the full version here. So you want to bring your foot so that it is parallel, the ankle, the shin, and the knee, all in one straight line, and that front foot is flexed, okay? So that's to protect the knee and the hip joint. From here, you're taking this right leg and you're stacking it on top. So you're doing the exact same thing, okay? So front knee, ankle, and foot, all in the same direction, foot flexed. Now, if this top leg is really high up, okay, this is where props work. So you could be using a block, especially if you're working with an injury on that right side. The block is the best way to support yourself. Okay, if you're just feeling kind of tight and the knee is up a little bit, you can slide, again, whatever number of towels, blankets, or cushions that you need. Again, remember, I always say this in every single practice that I do, it's not about how you look, it's how you feel in the pose. Right. Now, if neither of these options work with any kind of propping whatsoever, then what you're going to do is you're going to come into a seated cross-legged position where your right leg would be forward and your left leg would be in the inside. Okay? And again, you're still sitting up on something. So that's another option as well. And you can prop underneath those knees as much as you need to be able to support your hips. From here, wherever you are, whatever position you're in, some of you might already be feeling enough sensation through the outer edges of your hips, maybe even some of you through the inner thighs, and of course through your low back. So you're welcome to stay right here. If you find that you're really not feeling much here, I invite you to take about 10 breaths first before you even contemplate moving forward. And then at the end of those 10 breaths, you're going to slowly start to hinge yourself forward until you come to that first edge. Again, that first place of sensation, not pain, not sharpness, maybe some discomfort, but you're feeling like there's a strong stretch happening there. And then that's where you're going to rest. If you have some additional props around you, like some extra blankets or pillows, you can always use those and stack them in front of you. And if you're coming forward, this might be a great place for you to start, is just right here. And then you're closing your eyes and you're coming into your breath. Again, full breath in through the nose and an even longer breath out through the mouth. Again, just let yourself soften, especially if you're folding forward. Some of you might be in a range where you can fold a little bit more deeply and you might be stacking some stuff underneath you so that maybe you can rest your forehead down. Relax your shoulders, keep them away from the ears, and focus on your breath. Wherever you are, empty out your breath. And then take a full breath in. And take a long breath out through your mouth. And if you're folded forward, you're going to slowly start to use the palms of your hands to lift yourself back up so that you're in a nice long straight spine. And then taking your hands underneath that front foot and knee, you're going to just slowly lift yourself a little bit back and then extend the legs out. Again, you may want to find some stillness here, or you may want to just shake the legs out a little bit. You can also do some windshield wipers to just help release, especially through the low back. And then we're going to come on over to the other side. So again, you're lengthening out both legs. We're going to take the right foot in. So again, shin, knee, ankle, all parallel, foot flexed. Left leg comes on top. Okay, prop underneath if that front knee, that top knee is high. And if this doesn't work for you on this side, that's okay. Take the cross-legged version instead. Left leg forward, right leg in. Remember that your body is never symmetrical from one side to the other. So there's always some kind of misalignment happening here. So what your body is capable of doing on one side doesn't necessarily mean that it's capable of doing on the other side. So support and prop yourself as much as you need to so that you can come into a place where you have a little bit of discomfort and some sensation, yet you can work with that and you can use your breath as that tool to help release. And again, because we're practicing at night, you want to be doing that nice, long, deep, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system state breath. Okay, so that nice, long exhale. For those of you who are a little bit more flexy, you might be starting to fold forward. And again, coming to a place where maybe your forearms are resting either on some support, some blocks, some props. Maybe you've got something underneath your head, so your forehead is down. If it's all right on the neck, some of you may want to actually just drop your head and let yourself get a good neck stretch. And focus on your breath. And wherever you are in your breath cycle, empty out the breath as you exhale. And then take a deep breath in. And take a long breath out. If you're folded, slowly rise up to a straight spine. You're going to take your hands underneath your knee and your ankle and release the legs out. And you can either find some stillness here, shake the legs out, or again do some windshield wipers. And for the last part of this good night yin sequence, we are going to do legs up the wall. So I'll show you two different variations depending on whether you have wall space or not. Okay, so the first variation is without the wall. Okay. So if you have a block, that's really a great option to have. If you don't have a block, then what I would recommend is some stacked pillows and blankets, something that's a little bit thicker and denser so that you have a good support underneath you. So you'd come to lie down on your back, knees bent, and then you're going to lift your hips up and you're sliding the block on its lowest end here, right underneath your sacrum, okay, that hard triangular bone. So it's not right on the bum and it's definitely not digging into the low back. And from here, you're going to slide the shoulders down the back and then you're lifting your legs. So this is an option here. Some of you may want to just lift to this height. Keep your feet dangling, but your knees are still bent. If you want a little bit more, you can extend the legs so that they're straight up. They don't have to be super straight. In fact, I often recommend a nice bend, a little bit through the knees, especially if your hamstrings are tight. Your feet are relaxed, and you can take your arms wherever it's comfortable. So it could be down by your sides, it could be out from your shoulders, it might be above your head, wherever you are. And then you're resting here. If you've got a towel or something that you can place over your eyes, that's a great option too. Okay, so this is the variation on the floor. For those of you that have some wall space around you, you're going to slide so that your bum is against the wall. And if your hamstrings are tight, don't worry about trying to get your legs straight up against the wall, okay? So you're going to scoot over onto one side of your hip, come down on towards your back. You're going to turn yourself around and you're going to slide your legs so that they're straight up the wall. Now, my hamstrings are fairly open, so my bum and my legs are right up against the wall. You might actually have your feet on the wall and your knees super bent if you're really tight. Or you might even have your bum further away from the wall and your knees bent too. Okay, and again, arm position is whatever's comfortable for you. Once you're here, you're closing your eyes. Again, maybe you've got something to rest over top of your eyes. And then you're, again, coming to your breath. Okay, this is one of the best postures to do at night. If you've been standing a lot, if you've been sitting, if your feet are really swollen, I mean, this is probably the #1 posture that I recommend to all of my clients, especially my reflexology clients, so for the folks that have really swollen, tender, achy feet. Okay, drawing the blood away from the feet, back towards the heart, is a great way to improve circulation through your legs. It's awesome for releasing pressure in the spider or varicose veins in the legs. And if you're someone who suffers a lot from restless leg syndrome, this is a wonderful, wonderful recipe to help release that, especially before you go to bed. Again, this can be done in your bed as well. If you've got a headboard and you can just relax your legs up against it. And really focus here on that nice, deep, long, calming, soothing breath out. Now the timer's gone off, but that certainly does not mean that you need to come out of this pose. If you are really comfortable here and you feel like you could take a little bit more time here, and you have the time, then please do. If your feet start to feel tingly and numb, then that means the blood's fully drained. So at that point you do want to come out of the posture, but you want to come out slowly. If you are ready to come out, whether you are on the floor with your legs straight up or whether your legs are against the wall, you're going to slowly start to bend your knees. Draw your knees in towards your chest for a moment. If you're on a block, then you're going to place your feet down to the floor, lift your pelvis up and slide the block away, and then slowly lower down on towards your spine, one vertebra at a time. If your legs are up against the wall, as your knees come in towards your chest, you're going to roll over onto your side into a fetal type position. And then you're going to rest there for a few breaths before you slowly start to make your way up. Whether you're still in the pose or whether you're slowly making your way out, take a moment to acknowledge your practice. And also to give yourself a little bit of credit for taking the time to focus on you. I wish you a wonderful, restful, peaceful, and very deep sleep. From my heart to yours, from the light in me to the light in you. Namaste, Yin Yogas.